Black Adam, which is the next entry in the mostly failing DCEU franchise, directed by John Collett-Serra, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And I'll get this out of the way. Black Adam is basically the most superhero of a superhero film that a superhero film could superhero. Now, this film is around an hour and 55 minutes, and of that runtime, I would say an hour and 35 to 40 minutes is dedicated to nothing but non-stop action and carnage. Now, in a sense, that's not a bad thing because the action sequences are actually very well done and very well executed. They used a lot of the one-shot cinematography and action filming that I usually appreciate, and honestly, Black Adam is a mostly competent, I'm not going to say well-made film, but it's an entertaining, competent film that passes and achieves exactly what it wanted. Now, with all that being said, Black Adam is also overreaching so far much into what it really should be. It reaches so much and grasps very little. And by that, I'm going to start with the story, where it's basically absent, and whatever story there is basically just a retreaded cliche superhero big budget story where it's very tiny story, barely any backstory. When there is backstory, it's Black Adam's backstory, which is fine. As aforementioned, this is a film called Black Adam, and those parts of the backstory and exposition were fine, but essentially Black Adam tosses in 5+ superhero characters above all else, and about 10+ characters throughout, and really one or two of these characters are fleshed out even a tiny bit. Everybody else is just kind of there because either character or superhero, and this is mainly where the film starts to just rot away. The characters are just caricatures of what they're supposed to be. Like I said, every single character except one or two is just in this film just as basically the actor or actress just performing their role. Dwayne Johnson, honestly, he's competent to play as Black Adam, but he doesn't really perform at all in this film. He basically just walks in this film acting exactly how he is as a person, just acting as himself. Just like 90% of the other performances he's given, the only standout for his performance, in my opinion, is when he was in Pain and Gain. He at least acted in it. He was a stupid idiot, but he was actually playing a character. He was portraying somebody different other than just himself. Now, the story is basically absent, and what story is there is mostly abysmal. It's not that this film is made horribly, because it's not. It's just that Black Adam was released after at least a decade's worth of every single superhero film doing the exact same thing that Black Adam has done, and oftentimes better. I'm a little conflicted about this film because, like I said, it's competently made, it's entertaining, but at the same time, I feel like it was way fucking overlong. It felt like the end of the second act should have been the cutoff for the film, and then we had an extra 30 to 40 minutes on top of that. It felt like a 2.5 hour film, and it was really only an hour and 55 minutes, which is never a good thing when a film makes you feel like that. And as stated, the action sequences, and there are a shit ton of them, they're well done. I'll give them credit for filming the action sequences adequately enough. The visuals are actually very top notch. It's sometimes actually a really colorful and pretty film. It's not just black suits and everything. They did add some colors into this just to kind of diversify just kind of the landscape of the color and palette and everything. But just like any other superhero film, there's also always a post-credit scene, and as expected, it's abysmal. It's also very, very predictable. If you've been keeping up to date with all the stupid crap that Dwayne Johnson keeps rambling on about Black Adam, it's super predictable. The post-credit scene, the film's story itself, because it's just riddled with nothing but superhero cliche, it's predictable and also extremely tedious just because of how much cliche is packed into this film. Now, this is probably the best Black Adam film that they could potentially make. If I were to add in anything to benefit this film, I would say take out all of the other excess superheroes and keep it just as a standalone Black Adam's story, because this film is made exactly how they butchered the Harley Quinn standalone film, where it's a Harley Quinn standalone film featuring 4 or 5 different superheroes. And I have nothing against that as a storytelling technique, but I do have a problem with it because standalone films are usually relatively under 2 hours, and in that runtime, you should really be focusing on fleshing out the main character's story and exposition, everything. Overall, for me, this isn't a god-awful terrible film, but there's so much that could have been added into it, and a lot of tweaks that they could have done to this film overall. But it's adequate enough to watch at least one time, and I strongly urge probably just one time, because my one-time viewing, as stated, about an hour and a half into it, or even less time than that, I kept looking at my phone's clock and I was just like, I know it's almost a 2-hour film, but it feels like it needs to finish right here. So I would add pacing problems with all of the other problems as well. It's just a very inconsistent film where there's one pretty good thing done, there's something that's superbly atrociously done. So overall for me it's a mixed bag, but Black Adam I would have to say is a 5 out of 10, because while it looks great, and that's probably the best thing I can say about this film, it does look really damn good, the acting isn't really there, the story is mostly absent, and when it is there, it's cliche and predictable. But the action sequences are very well done, and the action sequences basically take precedent throughout this entire film. So Black Adam is a 5 out of 10. Thank you.